Hello and welcome to my April budget recap. This month has been really tight, but we've been able to make it through with the help of our previously funded sinking funds. If you're new here, my husband and I are in our 30s and we have a 6-month-old daughter. Since the beginning of the year, I've been on mostly unpaid maternity leave, but recently I have started back at work, bringing the added expense of daycare to our budget. This is our actual budget and spending. I've been making these videos to hold myself accountable to sticking to our budget and documenting our journey towards financial freedom. I use a zero-based budget with sinking funds, and if you like my spreadsheet, there is a link to it in the description below. It is free to download and use. If you do use it, let me know in the comments below how it is working out for you. Now let's get into my recap. I did an update after our first paychecks when almost all of our debts and fixed expenses were paid, and we were negative on our budget, but we do keep enough in our checking account to cover the beginning monthly expenses, so we don't go negative there. We don't want to be paying any overdraft fees. So first, for my paycheck, my second paycheck in this month was $619.60. So I've been back at work 3 days a week now, but at the beginning of April, I was only there one day. And so my paycheck has had to catch up with that as well. So overall in April, I've brought in $875.82, which was less than I budgeted. And that was because of the overpayment at the beginning of March, and that was still catching up throughout most of April. So for my husband, both of his paychecks were the same. So he brought in $4,359.32, which was over $500 more than we expected. I think the reason for this was that he decreased his retirement contributions, and we weren't exactly sure how the taxes were going to pull out, as well as how much more the income was going to be when he decreased from 15% contribution to the 3% match. So, and again, this is only 80% of his paycheck, which hits the joint account, and he keeps the rest in his personal spending. And then for interest, I ended up moving our savings into a money market account that was getting 5.25%. It might be just a promotional rate, but at least for now, it's earned us quite a bit of interest. So in total, all of our accounts earned us $90.80 in interest, which was really helpful for the month. We did not redeem any rewards for our credit cards. We did not receive any refunds. We are actually still waiting for our state tax refund. If you've seen my previous budgets, you can hear the story about what happened with that. So we haven't received it yet. Hopefully, I think it's been processed. They don't really keep you updated on that. So we haven't received our state tax refund yet, but we should hopefully at some point. And we didn't receive any other income this month. So overall, we have $5,325 of income that we actually brought in, which was a little bit less than we had anticipated, and that was mostly because of my paychecks. So at the beginning of the month, our debts that we paid for were the mortgage, one car payment, the student loans, and one retirement loan. As I mentioned in my budget with me, our car payment withdraws 3 times this month. So we had 2 more payments of $311.07 for a total of $933.21. We pay our car every other week. We make a car payment. And the way it happens is it actually falls the Monday before we get paid. So it makes it a little bit tight. We paid our student loans at the beginning of the month, and then my retirement loan comes out with my paycheck, and so with my second paycheck, I paid my retirement loan. So overall, our debts that we paid this month were $4,493.10, which leaves us with just $832.80 left in our budget. So at least we are currently positive, whereas at this point in my budget update, we were negative. So that's a good thing that we're so positive. But we have the rest of our fixed expenses, which are our utilities that came out at $184. We had paid our car insurance, which was less than anticipated due to a discount we received for replacing our roof. The internet came out. Acorns actually came out a second time. I think it's finally caught up. It's supposed to be drafting at the end of the month for the month of your subscription. However, it had been on a bit of a delay since like February, so it's finally caught up, and so it's pulled out twice this month, which is fine. And then daycare, we budgeted $560, but as you'll see, I only paid $280 here for daycare, which brings our remaining budget to $247.85. So moving on to our savings, I have an FSA contribution which withdraws from my paycheck every 2 weeks. Is $20. So $40 came out this month. And I actually spent some money, $15.99. I had to buy some vitamin D drops for my daughter. Since she's breastfed, she needs a vitamin D supplement. And I bought them a while ago, but I finally got the reimbursement. And so I spent $15.99 from the FSA account. For the Roth IRA, we actually did not contribute this month. Usually we contribute $500 a month, but the budget is a little bit too tight right about now, so we didn't contribute to the Roth IRA. The Acorns, I have a monthly $5 contribution plus the roundups. And this month we had a roundup, so that brought our total contributed to Acorns at $10.21. We didn't spend anything for our Roth or our Acorns. For the emergency fund, we didn't contribute any and we didn't withdraw any. Our budget's pretty tight, so we actually don't have anything to contribute to any of these savings, but we also didn't pull from any of them, which is a good thing. So for funding our sinking funds, we only have $197.64 to work with. So we did not really fund any of our sinking funds. We didn't add any to home, but we didn't spend very much. I think my husband needed a few more things for working on the nursery, so $34.90 there. Since we spent quite a bit on groceries this month, we threw $50 into our grocery sinking fund. So for groceries, we made a couple more purchases. At the beginning of the month, we had spent $187.20, and by the end of the month, we had spent $364.69 on groceries, which is quite a bit. It's a little bit more than we like to spend. However, we have the money in our sinking fund, so we were okay. For car and gas, since that sinking fund is pretty low, after I bought tires last month, we will replenish it with $100. But I only spent $30.90, and that was for a tank of gas for my car. It's actually the first time that I bought gas for my car since I think last June. I think my husband paid to fill it up one time on his credit card. But in terms of me purchasing gas for my own car, I hadn't bought it since last June, which is pretty crazy. It's because I wasn't driving very much, and most of my trips are short trips. Because I drive a plug-in hybrid, most of those short trips are just on the battery. For gifts and donation, we didn't budget any, or we didn't contribute any to our sinking fund, and we didn't spend any. Restaurants, same thing. We didn't contribute any, and we didn't spend any. And for pets, we didn't contribute any, and we didn't spend any. So for baby, we didn't contribute any to the sinking fund. We had $365 in there, and we ended up spending $318.26. Part of this was for daycare, and part of it was for some supplies for daycare. So now our baby sinking fund is running pretty low, but hopefully we won't have many more purchases for her. And since I'm putting daycare in our fixed expenses, we won't be pulling from her sinking fund anymore for daycare. So for clothing and personal, we didn't put any into our sinking fund. We didn't put any into our health sinking fund. We didn't put any into our travel and entertainment sinking fund. We put $45 into our phone sinking fund, and then we'll throw the remaining $264 into miscellaneous so that it's nice and even, comes out to zero. And we didn't spend from any of these funds, which is pretty good. So overall, we spent $748 from our sinking funds, which is basically any other purchases we made besides our fixed expenses, which is actually not too bad. So that was a recap of our spending in April. We got really close to overspending on groceries, but it's a good thing we had that full sinking fund. We weren't able to contribute to our sinking funds very much this month, so we'll have to be better about our grocery spending next month. Let me know in the comments how your April budget went. I love to celebrate with you when you tell me your spending and savings wins. I have an update on our low spend year if you're interested, and we'll also have an update on our May budget since I just got my first paycheck in May. If you're interested in seeing more of my family's budget, then please hit subscribe and follow along. Thank you for being here.